Welcome to Monk's Temple. Please, make yourself comfortable. Let the sounds around you soften, and the need to be anywhere else dissolve. We are about to begin a very long, very deep conversation, a journey inward to a place where the noise of the world cannot reach, and where the respect you seek is not given, but discovered, already built, like a forgotten city within your own spirit. For 35 years, I have sat in this space, both literal and figurative, and listened to the same heartache whispered in 1,000 different voices. The ache of invisibility. The sting of being an afterthought. The quiet humiliation of being taken for granted. It is a universal pain, but the healing, the profound and lasting healing, comes from a universal truth found at the heart of Buddhist wisdom. It is not about changing how the world sees you. It is about changing how you see yourself, and in doing so, you change the very energy you project into the world. Tonight, we will not walk a straight path. We will wander through stories, through principles, through quiet revelations, circling this truth until it becomes not just an idea, but a felt sense in your bones. Let us begin with a story about a tree. In a windswept valley, there grew a solitary pine. It was not the tallest, nor the most symmetrical. For years, it tried desperately to win the approval of the sun, straining its branches toward every passing beam, feeling lesser when the light favored the flowers in the meadow below. It felt the judgment of the wind, which would mock its needles and threaten to uproot it. The pine lived in a constant state of apology for its own existence, believing respect was something to be earned from the elements. One day, a terrible storm arose, fiercer than any before. The pine, in its panic, did something it had never done. It stopped straining. It stopped begging for light. In a moment of sheer survival, it drove its roots down, past the dry soil, past the rock, into a deep, hidden aquifer it never knew existed. As it tapped into this secret, inner source of water, a profound stillness entered its core. The wind howled, but the tree was no longer fighting it, it was swaying with a resilient grace. The rain lashed, but it was drinking deeply from within. When the storm passed, the pine was changed. It did not look so different to a casual observer. But the birds noticed. They began to build their nests in its now sturdy branches, not because it was the most beautiful, but because it felt safe. The weary traveler would sit against its trunk, feeling a strange, steady calm. The pine had learned, respect from the outside is a byproduct of unshakable stability on the inside. It stopped seeking the sun's approval and became its own source of nourishment. This is the first and deepest lesson. Before we explore the ways, we must plant our roots in the understanding that your worth is not a variable to be negotiated by others. It is the aquifer. Your task is to drill down to it. Now, if this idea of finding your own unshakable core resonates with you, if you wish to continue this deep exploration, I gently invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you choose to water these seeds of understanding each time we meet. You build a sanctuary for your own growth. Let's continue our journey. We often believe that to be valued, we must be constantly useful, constantly present. We confuse availability with worth. This is a painful misunderstanding. Buddhism teaches the principle of upekkha, or equanimity, a balanced, calm heart that is not pulled into the drama of others' demands. It is not indifference. It is a profound stability that allows you to choose your engagements from a place of strength, not desperation. Imagine you are a deep, clear well in the center of a parched village. If you leave your bucket tied to the rope for anyone to use at any hour, you will soon find your well depleted, your water muddied, and your bucket worn out. People will come to see the well not as a sacred source, but as a public utility. They will not think of its depth, only of their immediate thirst. But if you tend your well, cover it with a beautiful, carved stone lid, and draw from it only at certain times to share with true intention, everything changes. The well becomes a treasure. People approach it with reverence. They ask permission. They understand its gift. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are the water in your well. The boundary, the carved stone lid, is not a rejection of the village. It is what defines the well as sacred and prevents its depletion. It is your respectful no, spoken not from meanness, but from a solemn duty to preserve the purity and depth of your spirit. Every time you say yes from a place of depletion or fear, you are dropping your bucket into muddy water. Every time you choose a conscious no, you are cleaning the stones at the bottom of your well, allowing it to refill with crystal clarity. I remember a woman who came to me many years ago, a brilliant architect named Clara. Her talent was immense, but her career was stagnant. Colleagues would dump last-minute revisions on her. Friends would call at midnight with dramas. Her family expected her to host every holiday. She was the ever-available well, and she was running dry. Her work lost its spark. She felt invisible, despite being constantly needed. I asked her about the most beautiful building she had ever designed. Her eyes lit up describing a small meditation hall, a structure of sublime balance. Then I asked, "What is the first thing you design for any building?" She said, "The foundation, of course. And the load-bearing walls. The structure that allows beauty to exist without collapse." "And where," I asked gently, "are the load-bearing walls in your life? Where is the foundation that says, this will stand, and this will not?" She had none. She was all beautiful facade, with a crumbling interior. Clara began the arduous task of becoming her own architect. She designed her load-bearing walls, 2 uninterrupted hours for deep work each morning, no exceptions. She designed her foundation, 1 weekend a month entirely alone, in silence. Initially, there was uproar. Colleagues complained. Friends guilt-tripped her. But Clara, thinking of the integrity of her meditation hall, held firm. Slowly, the uproar ceased. A strange thing happened. Her work, protected by those sacred morning hours, became bolder, more innovative. She won a major award. The friends who respected her new boundaries became deeper, truer companions. The others faded away. People no longer just gave her tasks, they sought her counsel. They began to treat her time as a precious resource because she treated it that way first. She didn't build a wall to keep people out, she built a temple to house her own spirit, and people naturally approached it with reverence. This is the practice of sacred boundaries. It is not about building fortresses of isolation. It is about defining the temple of your own life so clearly that others cannot help but see it, and in seeing it, they learn how to approach. They learn the rituals of respect. You are the guardian of that temple. Your first duty is not to the crowds outside, but to the sacred flame burning within. Tend to that flame. Protect its oxygen. This is not selfishness in the petty sense. This is the most profound self-respect, and from its steady glow, all true respect from others is kindled. Let this idea settle. We will continue. Let us continue our journey inward. We have spoken of the inner aquifer and the sacred well, of building a temple for your own spirit. Now, we turn to a force that can erode the finest temple walls, a corrosive habit that Buddhism diligently warns against, the habit of complaint. In the Buddha's teachings, right speech is paramount. It is not only about honesty and kindness but also about the quality of our communication. Complaint is the voice of powerless suffering. It is the sound of a mind attached to a reality that is not present, craving for a different past or a different present. Each complaint is a subtle declaration, I am a victim of these circumstances. I have no agency here. And when you broadcast that signal, consciously or not, you invite the world to see you as a victim, as someone to be pitied or avoided, not as someone to be respected. Think of your mind as a clear, still pond. Every complaint is a pebble you toss into it. A single pebble creates ripples, but they fade. A constant barrage of pebbles, grumbles about the weather, resentment towards a colleague, laments about your luck, churns the water into a murky, unsettled mess. Nothing can be seen clearly in its depths. The beautiful reflections of sky and trees are shattered. You can no longer see your own true nature in that water. And others, looking at you, see only the disturbed surface, the agitation. They feel the chaotic energy, and they will, quite naturally, step back. They do not want their own stillness disrupted. The practice, then, is to become the watcher of the pebbles. To feel the urge to complain, that tightness in the chest, that bitter taste on the tongue, and to pause. In that pause, you create a space of freedom. You can choose not to toss the pebble. You can simply acknowledge the feeling, this is frustration. This is disappointment. And let it be, without giving it a voice that disturbs your inner pond. This is the alchemy, transforming the leaden weight of grievance into the silent, observant power of acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation. It is the clear-eyed recognition of what is, which is the only solid ground from which effective action can spring. I once knew a gardener named Elara whose famed rose garden was her pride. One year, a blight crept in, turning leaves black. Elara's neighbors would hear her daily laments over the fence. Why me? I've worked so hard. It's all ruined. Her despair was palpable, and soon, neighbors would cross the street to avoid her litany of woe. Her garden became a symbol of failure. One afternoon, an old monk from a passing monastery stopped at her gate. He listened to her complaints not with pity, but with a quiet smile. He said nothing about the roses. Instead, he pointed to a corner of her yard she had neglected, where a patch of tough, fragrant lavender grew wild, untouched by the blight. The soil that grows the rose, he said gently, also grows the lavender. But one chooses to see only the rose's thorns and not the lavender's resilience. He then left. Elara, stung by the indirect lesson, fell silent. She stopped complaining. She began to study the blight, not as a personal curse, but as a natural phenomenon. She discovered it thrived in damp, still air. She pruned aggressively for airflow. She learned to make a fungicide from the very lavender she had ignored. She did not save all the roses, but she saved the garden's heart. More importantly, her energy changed. She spoke of solutions, of learning. The neighbors, sensing the shift, returned, not to offer pity, but to ask for her hard-won advice. Her respect in the community transformed because she stopped broadcasting powerlessness and began embodying resilient, attentive care. Her pond became still, and people could see the depth of her capability reflected in it. This leads us directly to a companion principle, one of the highest virtues in Buddhist practice: integrity of action. This is the unbreakable thread between your word and your deed. In the teachings, this is part of sakka, or truthfulness. It means your promise is not just a sound you make, it is a living creature you bring into the world, and you are responsible for its growth. If you say, "I will meet you at dawn," and you arrive as the sun is high, you have not merely been late. You have shown that the creature of your word is weak, sickly, unable to stand on its own. You have demonstrated that your own internal regard for your commitments is low. And if you do not respect your own word, why should anyone else? They will stop entrusting you with anything of importance. Your word becomes currency with no backing, and you become spiritually bankrupt. Imagine two bridges. One is built by an engineer who gives magnificent speeches about its strength, its innovative design, its ability to connect communities. People are excited. The other bridge is built by an engineer who says little. She is seen at the site at all hours, testing the concrete, examining every weld, rejecting subpar materials. When the time comes, the first bridge is opened with fanfare, but within a year, it shows alarming cracks. The engineer blames the unusual weather, the river's current. The second bridge, opened quietly, stands unshaken through storms and floods. Which engineer do the people trust to build their children's school? Respect is not manufactured from the grandiosity of promises. It is forged, silently and relentlessly, in the integrity of the foundation. Every time you do what you said you would do, whether it's finishing a report, calling a friend, or sticking to a personal goal, you are laying another perfect, unwavering stone in the foundation of your character. People may not see each stone, but they feel the solid ground when they stand near you. They know, intuitively, that this is a person who does not collapse. A man once came to the temple, a musician named Leo. He was talented but perpetually stuck playing in small venues. "No one takes me seriously," he said. "My bandmates are flaky, promoters don't call back." Our conversation eventually turned to practice. He claimed to practice 4 hours a day. I asked, gently, if that was truly accurate. He paused, then confessed it was more like 1 focused hour and 3 hours of distracted noodling while watching videos. "I tell myself I'll practice at 8, he said, "but then I push it to 9, then 10. I pointed out that the first person he was breaking his word to was himself. He was building a bridge of maybe and later. How could he expect bandmates to be on time, or promoters to be reliable, when his own relationship with his craft was founded on a shaky promise? His task, I suggested, was not to get a better gig. It was to become a man of unshakable word in the smallest domain. He committed to one thing, 90 minutes of focused, uninterrupted practice every morning at 7:30 a.m. No negotiation. He treated this appointment with himself with the solemnity of a concert at the Royal Hall. For weeks, it was just him and his instrument, rebuilding trust. The change was internal first, a new solidity in his posture. Then, his playing deepened dramatically. His bandmates, feeling this new reliability, began to show up on time. A promoter, hearing a new confidence in his demo, finally called back. Leo learned that the music the world respected began with the unwavering rhythm of his own integrity. We have now laid several stones on our path, the deep root, the sacred boundary, the still pond, the unshakable bridge. These are not separate. They are interlocking parts of a single fortress. Let us pause here, and let these ideas settle into your awareness. Let us continue. We have been building an inner architecture of respect. Foundations of integrity, walls of mindful boundary, a still pond of non-complaint. Now we must address the very air inside this temple, the atmosphere of your own being. This brings us to a profound and often misconstrued Buddhist teaching, the concept of anatta, or non-self. This is not a bleak idea that you are nothing. It is a liberating one. You are not the fragile, small story you have been telling yourself. You are not the collection of titles, failures, opinions, or the respect meter you believe others hold. Your desperate search for external validation is like a small child clinging to a burning coal, believing it to be a precious gem, because it provides a momentary, painful warmth. The Buddha's path invites you to open your hand. To let the coal go. To see that the true warmth, the true light, comes from a sun that is always shining, not from the fleeting, scorching object in your grip. When your sense of self is built around being the respected one or the insulted one, you are at the mercy of every gust of wind. A compliment inflates you, a criticism deflates you. This is an exhausting, terrifying way to live. It is the root of all neediness. And neediness, the silent, clinging energy that pleads, see me, value me, approve of me, is the precise vibration that repels genuine respect. People sense the void you are asking them to fill, and it is a burden. They may placate you, but they will not truly respect you. Respect is drawn, like iron to a magnet, to self-containment. To become a person who is not looking for completion from the outside, you must investigate the one who is looking. You must shift from being the story to being the aware space in which the story unfolds. Picture an ancient, vast sky. Clouds pass through it, some dark and stormy, criticism, failure, some bright and glorious, praise, success. The sky does not cling to the glorious clouds. It does not fight the stormy ones. It does not become the clouds. The sky simply is, immense, silent, and fundamentally untouched by whatever weather moves through it. Your true nature is that sky. Your thoughts, your emotions, the opinions of others, are the clouds. The practice is to rest as the sky. To notice, here is a dark cloud of humiliation passing through. You feel it, you allow it, but you do not build a house in it and call it your identity. You do not shout at the sky, why are you doing this to me? Because you are not the cloud, you are the awareness witnessing it. When you begin to inhabit this sky-like awareness, your entire presence changes. The desperate, grasping energy vanishes. You emit a signal of wholeness. People may not understand why, but they feel calm around you. They feel you are not pulling on them, and so they can approach you freely. They are not your weather reporters, they are fellow travelers in your vast sky. This is the ultimate ground of respect. I recall a powerful lesson from my own teacher, many decades ago. I was young, eager, and terribly invested in being a good student. I would hang on his every word, hoping for a nod of approval. One day, after I had given what I thought was a very insightful answer, he looked at me not with praise, but with piercing kindness. He said, "You are like a man polishing a brass bowl, hoping to see the moon's reflection. You polish and polish, making the bowl shiny, but you are looking in the wrong place. The moon is already in the sky. Stop polishing the bowl. Look up." In that moment, I understood. I was so busy polishing myself, my knowledge, my demeanor, my spiritual persona, to get a good reflection from him, that I was missing the vast, open awareness that was already present. The respect I craved from him was meaningless compared to the self-respect of simply resting in my own true nature. When I stopped polishing and started looking up, everything changed. My relationship with my teacher deepened into something real, beyond approval seeking. My interactions with others lost their edge of need. I began to understand that the respect that matters is the quiet respect you hold for the sky within yourself, and from that, all other respect flows naturally, or ceases to matter altogether. This brings us to the practical engine of transformation, inner wealth cultivation. The Buddha emphasized virya, or persistent effort. This effort is not the frantic struggle of the polishing man. It is the dedicated, calm effort of the farmer tending his field, season after season, knowing he cannot rush the harvest but must prepare the soil, plant the seeds, pull the weeds, and trust in the rain and sun. Your inner wealth is your field. It is your skills, your knowledge, your compassion, your health, your unique perspective. Poverty, in the sense that destroys respect, is a poverty of spirit, a feeling that you have nothing of value to offer, that you are a vacant lot overgrown with weeds of doubt and inaction. To command respect, you must become a person of immense inner wealth, not to boast of it, but to have it so abundantly that it overflows naturally into your actions and presence. Consider two chefs. One chef has a nearly empty pantry, a few stale crusts, some wilted herbs. When guests arrive, he is full of anxiety. He must beg from neighbors, scrape together a meager meal, and apologize for its inadequacy. His energy is one of lack and shame. The other chef has spent years cultivating his garden, mastering techniques, filling his pantry with spices from distant lands, and perfecting his own recipes. When guests arrive, he is calm. He moves with quiet confidence. He does not announce what he has, he simply prepares a feast that is an expression of his abundant inner world. The guests are nourished, inspired, and deeply grateful. They do not just respect his cooking, they respect the lifetime of cultivation it represents. They trust him. They seek his company. Your life is your kitchen. Every book you read with true curiosity is a new spice. Every skill you master is a sharpened knife. Every moment of mindful kindness is a nourishing stock simmering on the back burner. You are not preparing a meal for a one-time guest, you are constantly enriching your own inner pantry so that whatever you offer to the world, in any situation, comes from a place of generous abundance, not desperate scarcity. I knew a man named Felix who worked as a clerk in a vast city archive. His days were quiet, his pay modest. He felt utterly insignificant, a ghost in the machinery of the city. But Felix had a secret, he was fascinated by the patterns of weather. Not as a scientist, but as a poet. For 30 years, during his lunch breaks, he would go to the archive's roof and note the cloud formations, the direction of the wind, the quality of the light. He cross-referenced these with old shipping logs, farmers' almanacs, and poets' diaries stored in the archive. He amassed a profoundly unique, intuitive understanding of the city's atmospheric soul. How a certain eastern wind in April carried the scent of blooming lindens from a park miles away, how the river mist on a November morning predicted a clear afternoon. It was useless, beautiful knowledge. He told no one. Then, a famous film director came to the archive, researching for a period film. He was stuck on a scene's atmosphere. Felix, delivering some documents, overheard and shyly mentioned a detail about the light in September. The director was captivated. He spent the whole afternoon with Felix, who spun a tapestry of the city's weather through time. The director was moved to tears. Felix's obscure, deeply cultivated inner wealth, his poetic meteorology, solved a creative problem no expert could. Felix was hired as a consultant. But more importantly, the entire archive staff began to look at him differently. The ghost had become a sage. They saw the decades of quiet attention. They brought him their own questions, not just about weather, but about history, about life. Felix's wealth was never in his bank account, it was in the rich, layered landscape of his mindful observation. By cultivating it for its own sake, he became a person of profound, unexpected value. Let us rest with these ideas, the vast sky of your true nature, and the rich field of your inner cultivation. These are not tasks to complete, but orientations to nurture. We continue our journey, having explored the sky of awareness and the cultivation of inner wealth. Now, let us address a powerful, often hidden force that shapes our interactions, the energy of expectation. In Buddhism, much suffering is linked to tanha, craving, thirst, desire. A subtle but pervasive form of this is our expectation of how others should treat us. We carry a silent rulebook, a script for the play of our social life, and we feel insulted, disrespected, and hurt when others do not follow their assigned lines. We believe, a friend should return my call promptly. A colleague should acknowledge my contribution. A stranger should be polite. And when these unspoken shoulds are violated, we feel the sting of disrespect. But who wrote this rulebook? And why have we given it such authority over our inner peace? The path to freedom, and to a respect that cannot be shaken, involves consciously setting this rulebook down. It means engaging with people as they are, not as you believe they ought to be. Imagine you are a master weaver, and your expectations are the rigid, brittle threads you insist on using for your tapestry. You want the thread of gratitude from this person, the thread of deference from that one. But people, being human, are inconsistent. They provide you with a thread of indifference, a thread of self-absorption, a thread of clumsy kindness. If you are attached to your brittle, ideal threads, the entire tapestry will tear and snag with every interaction, leaving you frustrated and the work in tatters. But what if you became a weaver of such skill that you could use any thread offered? The coarse thread, the smooth thread, the oddly colored thread. Your artistry is not in controlling the supply, but in your ability to incorporate whatever comes into a coherent, beautiful whole. Your inner peace, your self-respect, becomes the loom, strong, steady, and unchanging. The actions of others become merely the threads. Some will be golden and easy to work with. Others will be rough. But the integrity of the tapestry, your life, is determined by the strength of your loom and your skill as a weaver, not by the threads you wish you had. When you release the demand for specific threads, you are never disappointed. You are only ever creatively engaged. And people, sensing this lack of demand from you, feel strangely free and respectful around you. You are not auditing their performance, you are accepting their humanity. I remember a community leader, a woman named Martha, who organized a large neighborhood project. She had a clear vision and expected everyone to share her enthusiasm and follow the plan exactly. When volunteers forgot tasks, brought different materials, or suggested changes, she took it as personal disrespect. Her rulebook was thick, and she was constantly offended. The project became fraught with tension. Exhausted, she came to a retreat. During a walking meditation, she became fixated on a path covered in irregular, jagged stones. She kept tripping, growing more and more angry at the path for not being smooth. The guide softly said, "You are not here to change the stones. You are here to learn how to walk on them." This struck her deeply. She returned to her project and decided to experiment. She put her rulebook away. She announced the ultimate goal, a community garden, and then simply provided the frame, the loom. She accepted every offering, a child's crookedly painted sign, an elderly man's slow but meticulous weeding, a teenager's loud music while they worked. She wove it all in. The garden that emerged was messier, more vibrant, and far more beloved than her pristine plan. And the respect the community had for her transformed. They no longer saw her as a demanding director, but as the calm, inclusive heart of the project. She had learned to walk on the stones, and in doing so, became the steady path itself. This practice of releasing expectation is closely tied to another jewel of Buddhist wisdom, mindful response versus knee-jerk reaction. When we feel insulted or slighted, there is a lightning-fast, primal reaction. It is a chemical and emotional storm, heat in the face, tightness in the throat, a flood of defensive thoughts. This is the knee-jerk. It is the untrained, animal part of us that wants to snarl or cower. To be governed by this is to be a puppet on the strings of other people's behavior. The Buddhist teaching on mindfulness, sati, is the practice of inserting a sacred pause between the stimulus and your response. In that pause, which might last only 2 seconds, lies your entire freedom. In that space, you are not the reaction, you are the one who chooses. You can feel the storm clouds gathering, and instead of letting the lightning strike outwards in anger or inwards in shame, you simply watch the weather. You breathe into the tightness. You become the sky, once again. From that calm center, a response can emerge that is dignified, clear, and powerful precisely because it is not a reactive twitch, but a conscious action. This is how you train yourself to be uninsultable. Not because you are numb, but because you are so present that you own the space between what someone does and what you do next. Picture a still, deep pool in a forest. If you throw a large rock into it, there is a tremendous splash, chaotic waves, disturbed mud. This is the knee-jerk reaction. Now, imagine the same pool, but this time, when the rock breaks the surface, you are not identified with the water. You are the awareness of the entire forest. You see the rock arc through the air. You hear the kerplunk. You see the splash and the ripples expanding. But you are not churned by them. You witness the entire event with a spacious, silent attention. From that vantage point, you might choose to skip a stone playfully across the ripples, or you might choose to sit in silent observation. The key is that the rock does not own you. Your peace is not hostage to the thrower. When you can meet perceived disrespect from this place of witness, something miraculous happens. Often, the insult simply dissolves, having nothing to latch onto. It is a fist-hitting fog. And sometimes, your calm, non-reactive presence becomes a mirror, and the person throwing rocks sees their own agitation reflected back, which can be the beginning of their own awakening. Let me share a story about a master potter named Silas. He was known for his serene focus. A rival potter, jealous of his reputation, came to his shop one day and, in front of a group of apprentices, loudly criticized Silas's latest vase, calling it clumsy and derivative. The air went still. All eyes turned to Silas, expecting a fiery defense or a hurt retreat. Silas paused. He looked at the critic, then at the vase, then back at the critic. His face was like a calm lake. He walked over to the vase, examined it closely as if seeing it for the first time, and said, "You may be right. The curve on this shoulder is a challenge. I was wrestling with the memory of an older style. Thank you for pointing it out so clearly." Then he smiled, a genuine, untroubled smile, and returned to his wheel. The critic was dumbfounded. The intended drama had nowhere to land. The apprentices learned more about true strength in that one mindful response than in years of technical instruction. Silas owned the space. He was not the vase, nor was he the criticism. He was the awareness in which both existed, and from that place, he remained utterly unshaken and, ultimately, more respected than ever. Weaving without demanding specific threads, creating a pause between the rock and the ripples, these are advanced arts of the spirit. They take practice. They begin with small moments, when someone cuts in line, when a family member makes a careless remark. Notice the jerk of the knee, the tightening. And then, breathe. Create just 1 millimeter of space. In that tiny space, your fortress is being built. Let us delve deeper into the architecture of the unshakable self. We have spoken of releasing expectations and mastering the pause. Now, we must examine the very ground we stand upon, the soil from which all our interactions grow, our relationship with our own past and our own perceived flaws. A central teaching in Buddhism is the practice of metta, or loving-kindness. It typically begins with directing this gentle, unconditional friendliness towards oneself. Why? Because if your inner world is a battlefield of self-criticism and regret, you will project a field of invisible wounds. You will walk into a room with a subtle energy that pleads, "Please, see me as better than I see myself." Or, conversely, you will armor yourself with arrogance, which is just another form of the same wound. People sense this fractured relationship you have with yourself, and it becomes the lens through which they view you. To command deep, authentic respect, you must first become the benevolent monarch of your own inner kingdom. You must make peace with your own history, not as a story of shame, but as the fertile soil that nourishes the tree of your present wisdom. Imagine your life as an ancient, sprawling library. In it are scrolls and books of every event, every word spoken, every failure, every triumph. For many, the sections labeled mistakes or humiliations are locked away, shrouded in dust and shame. We are terrified someone will find them. So we post guards at those aisles, guards of defensiveness, of pride, of people-pleasing. We exhaust ourselves maintaining this security detail, and it makes us tense, inaccessible, and oddly fragile. True inner strength, and the respect it attracts, comes from having the courage to walk into those forbidden stacks, turn on the light and read those volumes with compassion, as an archivist would, seeking understanding, not condemnation. You see that the person who acted then was doing the best they could with the knowledge and wounds they had. You forgive them. You integrate their story into the whole library. Now, the entire library is open. You have nothing to hide, even from yourself. When you have achieved this inner integration, you carry a profound wholeness. There are no more hidden rooms that can be triggered by someone's careless comment. An insult aimed at you is like a pebble thrown at a mountain. It cannot touch the deep, settled layers of stone that have already made peace with themselves. I once counseled a man named Daniel, a skilled surgeon who was brilliant yet despised by his surgical teams. He was known for his icy, cutting demeanor. He came to me not out of a desire for warmth, but because his team's resentment was affecting efficiency. He saw it as their respect problem. As we talked, a deeper story emerged. Decades prior, as a young intern, he had made a small error in judgment during a procedure. No patient was harmed, but a senior surgeon had publicly eviscerated him, calling him a careless fool in front of the entire theater. The shame was tectonic. Daniel locked that terrified young intern away in the deepest dungeon of his psyche and built the persona of the flawless, unassailable surgeon over it. Every interaction was filtered through the need to never, ever be that humiliated boy again. His arrogance was a fortress wall, but it was a prison. His team's disrespect was simply a reflection of the contempt he held for his own hidden vulnerability. His task, I suggested, was not to manage his team, but to go down into that dungeon and make peace with the intern. It was a long, painful process of memory and forgiveness. He had to offer metta to his younger self. When he finally did, something in his energy softened, not into weakness, but into a solid, calm confidence. He no longer needed the fortress. He began to admit, I don't know, sometimes. He started teaching rather than commanding. Within months, the team's dynamic transformed. They were loyal, not out of fear, but out of genuine respect for a leader who was finally whole, integrated, and therefore, truly strong. His respect was earned the moment he offered it to the most disrespected part of himself. This integration leads us to another vital principle, the power of purposeful incompletion. In a world that shouts, more, faster, complete, there is immense, counterintuitive strength in thoughtful deliberation, in not rushing to fill silences, in not needing to have the final word. Buddhism values samatha, tranquility, a mind that is settled and unperturbed by the rush to conclude. When you are secure in yourself, you do not need to win every argument, finish every sentence for someone, or immediately resolve every tension. You can allow a question to hang in the air. You can say, I need to think about that. You can let someone else sit in the discomfort of their own unresolved point. This is not passive, it is powerfully active. It demonstrates that your inner stability is not dependent on external resolution. It shows that you are a person of depth, that your thoughts are worth waiting for. It makes your eventual words weightier. People who are constantly scrambling to tie everything up with a neat bow often seem anxious, shallow. The person who can comfortably inhabit the space of not yet projects a depth that commands attention and respect. Think of two painters. One works frenetically, covering every inch of the canvas by sunset, needing to present a finished product. The other painter might place a single, masterful stroke on the canvas, then step back for an hour, looking, living with the emptiness, allowing the next stroke to emerge from a deep dialogue with the unfolding work. Which painter do you watch with more fascination? Which one's final work carries more profound authority? Your communication and actions are your canvas. The spaces you leave, the thoughtful pauses, The unanswered questions, the projects you incubate slowly, are not voids. They are charged with potential. They are evidence of an inner richness that cannot be hurried. When you are not desperate to be seen as complete or decisive at every moment, you are seen as wise. A story comes to mind, from the annals of an ancient kingdom. A young, impatient prince was sent to learn statecraft from an old chancellor renowned for his wisdom. The prince, eager to prove himself, would burst into the chancellor's study with solutions to complex problems. The old man would listen, then say nothing. He would tend to his bonsai tree, or pour tea in silence. Days might pass before he'd offer a single, cryptic comment that would unravel the prince's entire plan. The prince grew frustrated. "Why do you wait so long to speak?" he demanded. The chancellor took the prince to a murky, agitated fish pond. "Strike the water," he said. The prince did, causing a splash and chaos. "Now," said the chancellor, "watch the water until it is clear enough to see the bottom." They waited. Slowly, the silt settled. The water became still and transparent, revealing smooth stones and gliding fish. "Your mind, when presented with a problem, is like the struck water," the chancellor said. "Full of agitated silt. I wait for your silt to settle, and for my own, so we may both see what is truly on the bottom." Quick answers often solve the wrong problem. The prince learned that the chancellor's immense respect in the kingdom came not from the speed of his tongue, but from the profound clarity that arose from his comfort with silence and incompletion. He became a student of the pause. We are weaving a rich tapestry now, integrating our shadow, making peace with our past, and finding power in purposeful deliberation. These are the hallmarks of a person who needs nothing from the moment, and therefore owns it completely. Let us journey further. We have integrated our past and found power in pause. Now, we turn to a principle that is the very breath of a respected life: consistent, unseen action. Buddhism places immense value on sila, or ethical conduct. This is often framed in grand terms: non-harming, honesty, chastity. But its true power, and its direct link to earning respect, is in its microscopic, daily, unseen application. It is the choice you make when no one is watching, the standard you uphold when there is no applause, the kindness you offer when there is no reciprocity expected. This builds what can only be called moral density. You become a person of weight, of substance. People may not know why they trust you, why your word feels like a sworn oath, but they sense the accumulated mass of 1,000 right actions performed in the dark. This invisible integrity becomes an aura, a gravitational field that draws respect naturally, without your asking for it. Imagine two sculptors carving a statue from identical blocks of marble. One sculptor works only when patrons are in the gallery, making bold, showy strokes. When alone, he rests, cuts corners, uses inferior tools for the back of the statue. The other sculptor approaches every inch of the marble with the same reverence, whether it will be the statue's face or the hidden curve of its back, unseen against a wall. He knows the integrity of the whole depends on the integrity of every part. Years later, an earthquake shakes the gallery. The first statue crumbles from within, its weak, unseen foundations giving way. The second statue shifts but holds, solid through and through. When people marvel at its resilience, they are not just admiring the visible artistry, they are feeling the result of 1,000,000 conscientious, invisible strikes of the chisel. Your character is that statue. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong in private, when you put the shopping cart back, when you admit your mistake in a private journal, when you do your best work on a report only you will read, you are strengthening the invisible backbone of your being. This backbone is what allows you to stand straight when the social earthquakes come. I learned this not from a scripture, but from a stonecutter I met as a young man. He worked on restoring an ancient cathedral, high on the scaffolding, carving decorative gargoyles that would sit 100 feet in the air, visible only to birds. I asked him why he spent such painstaking effort on details no human would ever properly see. He didn't look up from his work, his chisel moving with tender precision on a feathery wing. "The stone knows," he said simply. "And I know. And that is enough." The cathedral stands because every stone, seen and unseen, was placed with a true heart. A building, like a man, crumbles from the inside out, never from the outside in. I've carried that with me for decades. The stone knows. Your conscience is that knowing. The respect you seek is the cathedral others perceive, but it can only be raised on the foundation of countless true-hearted, unseen actions. You cannot build a palace on a swamp of private compromises. This leads us to a beautiful and challenging companion concept, the grace of non-comparison. A tremendous source of our feelings of disrespect is the unconscious, constant act of measuring ourselves against others. We look sideways to see our value. He got the promotion, I didn't, I am less. She is admired, I am overlooked, I am unworthy. This is the poison of comparison, and it is utterly foreign to the Buddhist path. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving, and much craving arises from measuring our life against another's. Your path is utterly unique, an intricate landscape of your own karma, lessons, and pace. To compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20 is a special kind of madness that guarantees a sense of lack and disrespect. True self-respect blossoms when you put down the measuring tape and become a pure, curious witness to your own journey. You respect the seedling for being a seedling, not for not being a tree. Envision a vast meadow at the foot of a mountain range. In the meadow grow dandelions, buttercups, clover, and tall, swaying grasses. On the mountain slopes grow hardy pines, and near the peak, tiny, rare mosses cling to the rock. Now, imagine the buttercup looking at the pine and feeling inferior for not being tall and strong. Imagine the pine looking at the delicate moss and feeling crude and clumsy. The entire ecosystem would be filled with a silent misery of misplaced identity. Yet, the meadow and the mountain exist in perfect harmony because the buttercup does not try to be the pine, it simply turns its face fully to the sun and becomes the most radiant buttercup it can be. Its value is in its buttercupness, not in its pineness. Your task is to discover your own ecological niche, your unique combination of gifts, temperament, and purpose, and to inhabit it fully, without glancing over at the mountain or the next flower. When you are fully rooted in your own being, you stop emitting signals of envy or inferiority. You emit a signal of completeness. People are drawn to this wholeness. They may not understand your particular niche, but they will respect the authority with which you inhabit it. A personal story illustrates this. Early in my teaching, I shared a space with another teacher who was dazzling, charismatic, eloquent, with a large, devoted following. I, by contrast, was quiet, slower, focusing on small groups and deep, silent practice. Initially, I felt painfully disrespected. My gatherings were humble. I found myself trying to mimic his style, which felt like a terrible betrayal of myself. It was a failure. One evening, after a poorly attended session where I had tried to be someone I wasn't, an elderly woman stayed behind. She said, "I come to you because when he speaks, I feel excited. But when you sit in silence, I feel the truth. Please, don't try to give us what he gives. Give us what only you can give." It was a watershed moment. I let go of the comparison. I embraced my niche. The depth of the silent well, not the sparkle of the fountain. Over years, something shifted. People who needed sparkle went to him. People who needed depth found their way to me. There was no competition, only different forms of service. And the respect I felt from my students, and eventually from my colleague, came from the authenticity of my own fully inhabited path, not from a borrowed blueprint. We have now added 2 more strong stones to our fortress. The weight of unseen integrity and the freedom of non-comparison. These are not actions you perform for others, they are inner orientations that, once settled, reshape your entire presence in the world. We continue to build from within. Having established the importance of unseen integrity and the freedom of non-comparison, we now approach a subtle but transformative principle, the economy of speech. The Buddha devoted a significant part of the Noble Eightfold Path to right speech. This is often simplified to, don't lie, don't gossip. But at a deeper level, it is about understanding speech as a precious resource, like water in a desert. Most of us spray our words like a loose hose, wasting energy, creating mud, and often washing away the very respect we hope to cultivate. We explain too much, justify, share unsolicited opinions, fill silences out of nervousness, or use speech to seek validation. Each unnecessary word dilutes your power. Respect gathers around those who understand that speech is for creation, not for leakage. When you speak sparingly, and only when your words can truly improve upon the silence, each word carries weight. Your sentences become like polished stones, solid, valuable, and memorable. People lean in to listen. They stop interrupting because they don't want to miss what might come next. In the economy of respect, the currency is not volume, but value. Consider 2 messengers from an ancient court. One messenger, when given a scroll, immediately runs through the streets shouting the contents, adding his own commentary, asking bystanders what they think. By the time he reaches the recipient, the message is distorted, diluted with his own energy, and no one takes him seriously. The other messenger takes the scroll, secures it, and moves with silent, swift purpose. He speaks to no one. He arrives, presents the scroll with a bow, and departs. His reliability is absolute. His presence commands immediate attention. Your inner truth is the scroll. Your mind is the court that writes it. Your speech is the messenger. Is your messenger a gossip, a ranter, a people pleaser? Or is it a disciplined, loyal courier, delivering only what is necessary, with precision and care? Training your messenger is a daily practice of restraint and mindfulness. Before speaking, ask, is this true? Is this kind? Is this necessary? Does it improve upon the silence? If the answer to any of these is no, conserve your resource. This discipline builds a profound aura of self-containment. I witnessed the power of this in a corporate setting, of all places. A new CEO was appointed to a troubled company. The previous leader had been a charismatic orator, holding long, motivational town halls filled with promises and jargon. The staff were cynical. The new CEO, a woman named Eleanor, did the opposite. Her first all-hands meeting was 10 minutes long. She acknowledged the challenges with stark clarity, stated 3 unambiguous priorities, and said, "My role is to remove obstacles so you can do your best work. I will listen more than I speak." And she did. She walked the floors in silence, observing. When she did speak in meetings, it was often a single, piercing question that cut to the heart of an issue, or a one-sentence decision. There were no grandiose speeches. Initially, people were unnerved by the quiet. But slowly, a shift occurred. Because she spoke so little, when she did, everyone paid rapt attention. Her words were analyzed, acted upon. Her silence was not perceived as weakness, but as immense, gathering intelligence. Within a year, the company's culture had transformed from one of noisy speculation to one of focused action. The respect for her was immense, not because she demanded it with words, but because she withheld them with wisdom. She understood the economy. This restraint with speech is the sibling of another vital practice, the art of receiving. We spend so much energy worrying about how to get respect, we forget that the way we receive anything, criticism, a gift, a compliment, is a direct broadcast of our inner security. If you receive a compliment with a flustered, self-deprecating dismissal, you are actually disrespecting the giver's judgment and broadcasting your own sense of unworthiness. If you receive criticism with immediate defensiveness or anger, you are broadcasting fragility. Buddhism teaches equanimity, upekkha, a balanced heart. This balance is perfectly displayed in the graceful reception of all things. To receive well is to be a deep, calm lake. Whether someone throws in a rose, praise, or a stone, criticism, the lake receives it with the same gentle acceptance. It acknowledges the object, ripples briefly, and returns to stillness. It does not reject the stone. It simply lets it sink and incorporates it. It does not clutch the rose, it lets it float, appreciating its beauty. Practice receiving a simple, "thank you." Instead of, "oh, it was nothing," which negates the value of your action and the other person's gratitude, try a simple, graceful, "you're welcome. I was happy to do it." Or just a smile and a nod. Receive the gift of their thanks fully, letting it land. Do the same with a critique. Instead of the knee-jerk armor, try, "thank you for that perspective. I will consider it." You are not agreeing, you are receiving the offering with dignity. This poise and reception is incredibly disarming and commands immense respect. It shows you are not easily thrown off your center, that you are large enough to contain both roses and stones without losing your essential nature. Let me tell you a story about a famous violin teacher, Maestro Rossi. He was known for his terrifying, brutal critiques. Students would leave his studio in tears. A new student, Aisha, arrived, known for her technical perfection but criticized for lacking soul. After her first performance for him, he unleashed his usual torrent, mechanical. Like a robot. No heart. Why do you even play? The other students in the room winced, waiting for her to crumble or fight back. Aisha stood quietly, letting the last echo of his words fade. She took a deep breath, bowed slightly, and said in a clear, calm voice, "Thank you, Maestro. To play with heart is my deepest wish. Can you help me find what is blocking it?" The room froze. Rossi, for the first time anyone could remember, was silent. He had thrown the largest stone he had, and instead of shattering glass or a defensive wall, it had sunk into a deep, still lake. Her reception completely disarmed him. It showed a respect for his insight that transcended fear. From that day, his teaching of her transformed. He became her most dedicated mentor. She had received his fire with grace, and in doing so, earned his true respect. She became a legendary player, known for the very soulfulness he first claimed she lacked. We are refining our being now, learning to be custodians of our speech and gracious receivers of the world's offerings. These are the fine tools that sculpt the final, elegant form of a respected life. We have journeyed far, building an inner fortress stone by stone. We have cultivated the deep root, the sacred boundary, the still pond, the unshakable bridge. We have learned to be the sky, to tend our inner garden, to weave without expectation, to pause, to integrate our shadows, to act rightly in the unseen, to step out of comparison, to steward our speech, and to receive with grace. Now, we arrive at the final, unifying principle. This is not another stone, but the space in which the entire fortress stands. It is the understanding that respect is a resonance, not a transaction. You have spent a lifetime, perhaps, viewing respect as a deal to be brokered. If I am kind enough, useful enough, quiet enough, loud enough, successful enough, then I will be paid in the currency of respect. This is the transactional view. It turns every interaction into a subtle calculation, a ledger of debts and credits. It is exhausting and it never works, because you cannot control the other party's ledger. Buddhism guides us to a profound shift. See respect not as a currency to be earned, but as a natural resonance that occurs when your inner frequency is aligned with truth and integrity. Just as a tuning fork struck pure will cause another tuning fork of the same note to vibrate across the room, without touching it, a person grounded in self-respect, compassion, and wisdom will naturally elicit a respectful resonance in others. It is not something you do, it is something you are. And what you are, vibrates. Imagine you are a bell. An old, cracked bell, when struck, produces a dull, discordant thud. It asks for attention but repels it with its unpleasant sound. This is the bell of neediness, of fractured self-worth. Now imagine a bell cast from the finest bronze, perfectly shaped. When it rests, it is silent, substantial, complete. When it is struck, it sings with a clear, pure, lasting tone that seems to clean the air around it. People stop to listen. They feel something in their own chest vibrate in harmony. They don't respect the bell because it tries to ring well, they respect it because its essential nature is to produce that beautiful tone. Your work is not to beg people to listen. Your work is to mend your cracks, to purify your alloy, to find your true shape through the practices we have discussed. Then, whether you are in action or at rest, your very presence will have a tone. And that tone will command the respect that is its natural echo. This is why the Buddha's path culminates in freedom. It is freedom from the desperate need for that external echo. When you are utterly complete within yourself, you may still enjoy the harmonious resonance when it comes, but you are no longer waiting for it to validate your song. You sing because you are a bell. This is the unshakable place. Let me leave you with one final, original story, a parable of the 3 lamps. In a village plagued by seasonal fogs, there lived 3 lamp makers. Each crafted beautiful lamps to help villagers find their way in the gloom. The first lamp maker, Aaron, was desperate for approval. He built his lamps tall and gaudy, covered in glittering mirrors and loud chimes. He would run out into the fog, shouting about his lamps, begging people to look. But his lamps burned a cheap, sputtering oil that produced more smoke than light. The villagers would pass by, annoyed by the noise and smoke, their path still obscured. Aaron felt invisible and disrespected, wondering why his spectacular designs were ignored. The second lamp maker, Baran, was stern and perfectionistic. He built lamps of incredibly strong, heavy iron with thick, durable glass. They were utterly reliable and burned a clean fuel. But he would only light them for people who could quote the proper rules for lamp request, and he would follow them, holding the lamp just so, criticizing their path. The villagers respected the light, but they found Baran cold and burdensome. They took his light out of necessity, not gratitude, and spoke of him with a grudging, fearful respect. The third lamp maker, Celia, worked differently. She spent her time in quiet study, seeking the clearest, purest flame. She discovered a way to blend oils that produced a steady, warm, penetrating light that could cut through the thickest fog. She built simple, elegant lanterns from polished brass and clear glass. She did not advertise. She simply kept her own workshop lamp lit day and night, its glow a beacon visible from the path. She maintained the village's central lamp post with care. When a lost traveler stumbled into her shop, she would wordlessly light a lantern and hand it to them, no questions asked, no praise expected. Her presence was as calm and steady as her flame. Over time, a silent understanding grew in the village. When lost, people did not seek Aaron's noisy spectacle or navigate Baran's strict rules. They looked for, and moved toward, the steady, welcoming glow emanating from Celia's workshop. They respected her not because she demanded it, or because her lamps were the most ornate, but because her light was true, reliable, and offered without condition. Her workshop became a place of gathering, of safety. She became the heart of the village, not by seeking the role, but by being the unwavering source of light. Her respect was the natural resonance of her authentic, helpful, and grounded being. You, my friend, are the lamp maker. Your inner work, your ethics, your mindfulness, your compassion, is the crafting of the lamp and the purification of the oil. Your healing, your integration, your release of craving, is the polishing of the glass. Your purposeful action in the world is the lighting of the flame. You cannot control the fog. You cannot force people to see. But you can ensure that your light, when you choose to shine it, is pure, steady, and cast from a place of wholeness. Do not go into the world seeking respect. Go into the world being respectable. Mend your cracks. Purify your intent. Align your actions with your deepest values. Speak with care. Act with integrity, especially in the dark. Become so grounded in your own worth that you need no one to proclaim it. Then, observe. You will find that people no longer insult you, not because they are afraid, but because insults find no purchase on a surface so smooth and solid. You will find that people listen, not because you command them, but because your words, emerging from silence, carry weight. You will find that respect arrives, not as a payment for services rendered, but as the natural, quiet echo of your own self-respect resonating in the space around you. This is the end of our formal journey, but the beginning of your practice. Carry these stones. Build your fortress. Light your lamp. The world needs your true, unshakable light. Thank you for walking this path with me at Monk's Temple. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. And from that freedom, may you naturally resonate with the deepest respect, from within, and from all who cross your path.